Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, March 15th Sioux Falls City Council meeting. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll go ahead and get started by reading our roll, please, Tom.
Council members Kylie.
Here.
Neitzert.
Here.
Selberg.
Here.
Sale.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Brecky.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
All right, with us tonight to give our invocation is Noah Shigley. Am I saying that right, Noah?
Right on.
All right, man. Noah's with the Ransom Church, so I'd ask that you rise for his invocation and then stay standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Awesome. Let's pray. Father, thank you for today, for the little things like beautiful weather, sunshine, warm weather. What a blessing that is. God, we also, I want to thank you for the leaders in this room, how you are empowering them. Lord, give them wisdom, give them a justice-minded heart, guide the decisions that they're making, give them discernment. So thank you for all that they're doing, what they're doing for Sioux Falls, what they're doing for families and everybody here. And God, ultimately, this is your city. At the end of the day, I pray that this city looks more like your kingdom and more like heaven on earth. And so that's what my prayer is for this, and that this meeting helps accomplish that. And so, God, we love you. And in the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Noah, for the invocation. We'll move on to item 4, consent agenda. Any changes to be made there? Councilor Starr?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to pull sub-item 30 from the agenda item number 6 from the regular agenda.
All right, any other changes here? Look for a motion then.
Move approval. Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Kylie. Any discussion there? Let's vote on that, please.
Council members Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. We'll skip ahead to item 52 then, which is our regular agenda. Look for a motion there.
Move to approve.
Second, Erickson.
All right, motion by Kylie, seconded by Erickson to approve our regular agenda. Any discussion on that? All right, hearing none, let's vote on that, please.
Council members Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Before we move on with our agenda, just want to review how public input will work for our evening tonight. For regular agenda items, comments are limited to 3 minutes unless it's a final adoption item, in which case public input will be limited to 5 minutes. And for those items, comments are limited to the agenda item under consideration only. So with that being said, we'll move on to the item that was pulled.
The item that was pulled, sub-item 30 from agenda item 6, Planning and Development Services Forward Sioux Falls 2022 to 2026 Agreement, Sioux Falls Development Foundation Incorporated and Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce, $500,000 per year.
Councilor Starr?
Yes, thank you. If I could, Director Eckhoff, if probably be the easiest way to start. If you could just do a quick overview of what the contract is for and what services we'll receive.
Sure, thank you. Jeff Eckhoff, Planning and Development Services. So Forward Sioux Falls program, as you know, has been around since 1987. This is its 8th five-year campaign for economic development partnership between the Chamber and the Development Foundation. So this would be year 1 of a 5-year pledge of $500,000, which is $100,000 more than the last 5-year pledges had been $400,000 a year. Within the contract, we basically mirrored the metrics that the Development Foundation, or pardon me, the Forward Sioux Falls has put forth. And so on page 2 of the agreement, there's metrics for business retention, expansion, attraction, talent, workforce development, which includes the 1,000 new housing units, 25,000 residents, et cetera, and then the marketing. And so those are the metrics within the contract, but it's the year 1 of a 5-year pledge. And then Bob Munt and Jeff Griffith are both here if you would have questions of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for Jeff? All right, I'll look for a motion.
Move approval. Jensen.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Kylie. Any discussion on this
We
item?
should probably do public input first.
Does anyone want to speak on this item tonight? Thank you for the reminder.
Every time I do that, though, no one shows up.
Good evening.
Slancha, Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls. I find this one interesting. I saw it on the agenda Friday. There's never really been any kind of presentation to the council as why they want to extend this. I've also felt that, I don't know why we give them this money all the time. I mean, the whole group just got a huge TIF. Then it also is curious, there's another item on the agenda that has to do with this money. They're giving $250,000 towards the DSU project. Is that coming from them or is that coming from us? Why don't we just give $10,250,000 and not give any money to the Forward Sioux Falls? Now, I'm all for, building businesses and giving this money, but what have we seen for the years that we've been giving them this money? Still got low-wage jobs, still got not affordable housing, which they correlate with each other. If you don't have a good paying job, you don't get good housing. And if there's no affordable housing, so what have they done with this money? Well, we have Amazon here. They came on their own. Everybody knows that. It's not some big secret. They said, hey, we need a logistics warehouse in Sioux Falls, and we're just going to build it. This wasn't something that was brought in because of us. And, they pay $15 an hour, and I don't know how anybody can afford to pay rent in this town on that. So that isn't really that big of a deal. There's, some other jobs and stuff. I guess my question is, when are we going to actually start asking for results for this money? Higher end jobs. And that's the other thing. We wouldn't have affordable housing issue in Sioux Falls if we had higher end jobs. People could afford housing. We wouldn't have to constantly be going, oh, we got to build cheap apartments here and cheap apartments here and cheap apartments here and stack them up to the 10 stories high. People could afford good housing. They got good paying jobs. So I think really what you should do is, I don't know what you can do, vote it down, I guess. Since they don't really tell us why they need the money or how they're using the money or anything. We just rammed it into the consent agenda, hoped it would just pass, no one would say anything, and then just get their check and then, write a check to the DSU Center. Kind of a pass-through, kind of like what we did with the rental assistance. We gave that to a nonprofit because we couldn't write checks, I guess. The city couldn't write checks. I didn't understand that. And, never had an audit of it. Never knew where any of that money went. Don't know who anybody got that money. $1 million of taxpayer money. Nobody knows where it went. You got to have accountability. I'm all for giving them the money, but they got to tell us what they're using it for. And I don't know why we keep moving towards, I remember when this used to come up years ago. They'd have to come up, they'd have to tell you why they needed the money, they'd have to do a presentation, it was his own item on the agenda, and they'd have to prove it. Now we're just slamming it into the consent agenda. We do that a lot these days. We just hide stuff, because we're just gonna give them the money anyway. But let's have a discussion first. Let's find out what they need the money for and what they're using it for. Are they bringing in good jobs? I don't know. It's puzzling to me, so vote it down.
All right, anyone else here to speak on this one? Come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. Mike Lynch, Executive Director of Forward Sioux Falls. Thank you for this opportunity. I would say several things about Forward Sioux Falls, and I know many of you are well-versed in what Forward Sioux Falls has done historically for our community. But you have to look at conceptually what Forward Sioux Falls is, and that is an economic development program with the intention of collectively coming together, putting funds together to raise up the area's economy. And we have, we believe, proven that we've done this in numerous ways by helping to bring, and we're not ever going to take full credit because we have a lot of partners within Forward Sioux Falls, and the city being a primary one historically. But we need to look at the growth that Sioux Falls has had, and we believe Forward Sioux Falls has had an integral part in that. Bringing people here, bringing companies here, making sure that our airport is providing the flights that is needed from a quality of life perspective and from a business perspective, making sure that advocacy is at the forefront. Forward Sioux Falls is something that we believe is easy to understand the significant benefits of. We do, as I believe you're all aware, provide an annual report of the progress that has been made each and every year, and we will do that again per contract. Happy to do that. There's also, at the end of every 5-year program, an ROI, and we will be happy to provide that as well. There's also a projected ROI for the next 5 years. So we're excited to also share that with you. We thank you very much for the partnership throughout these over 30 years that the city has walked hand in hand with Forward Sioux Falls. Forward Sioux Falls is also one that is really a convener. It brings together the private sector, the public sector, brings people to the table to really address issues and help to solve problems, much like you do each and every week. So we thank you very much for your consideration for this funding, and we'll be happy to work with you over the next 5 years to help the city grow. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Anyone else here to speak on this one? All right, we got a motion, a second on the floor, discussion. Councilor Erickson?
Thank you, and I know there was a lot of discussion amongst us as councilors today as well as we talked through some of these items that we were looking at pulling. And I think the difference with this, and I want to certainly separate myself from the second speaker's comments because I do know the good work that you do. I do know what you do in the community. I think some of the angst sometimes with collectively, I don't want to speak for the city council as a whole, but you hear us saying it often in general of bring us along on the ride, bring us through. We've been given updates on the Development Foundation. We meet with them on a quarterly basis. We meet with all these other different folks, and I think so some of it is we want you to share your story. We know how much work you're doing. We know the good work you're doing, but we want you to share your story so the community knows. You know, a while ago it was talked about that I can't remember the exact timeline that the reason for the additional funding per some research today was that you were supposed to take on the talent portal and some of those. Those are the things that we want to hear. I know Sioux Falls Development Foundation also does that, but knowing the critical time we are in this country with workforce and in Sioux Falls, what's going on with that. We have so many generous people giving to this foundation. And again, this is a positive. Just because it got pulled from consent doesn't mean that it's not a positive or that you're a target. Again, I certainly separate myself from the comments previously because I think those are unfair while I support the freedom of speech. I think the other issue is that it's been well over a year that we've had a formal presentation, and oftentimes, shame on us for a council for not inviting you sooner. But when you see a 25% increase after 5 years compounded, we just want to know what you're doing. We want you to share your story. We are happy what you're doing in our community, but we need that information for you to share your story beyond providing a report. I probably get 6 reports a week from every single different place that we give to. And I read the vast majority of them, but this is a substantial amount compared to what some of the other organizations that we do give to. And so, again, I don't want you to think because this was pulled that you don't have support from this council. It's really along the lines of, we just want you to share your story. We want you to market it. We want you to tell everybody what you're doing because we know you're doing good work.
Other discussion, Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Starr?
I would move to defer this item to April 5th.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Starr, seconded by Erickson to defer this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would echo Councilor Erickson's remarks. We're not displeased with what's going on, but if we defer to April 5th, that'll give us the opportunity to possibly have an informational or have a full presentation of the results of the last 5 years before we enter into a new 5-year agreement. And we're able to toot the horn of the successes that we've had. And we want to celebrate those successes and be part of this public-private partnership into the future.
All right, other discussion on the motion to defer this one? Councilor Jensen?
I would urge my colleagues to not support the substitute motion. As Mike had kind of pointed out, this was really important this year. You saw advocacy at work for this city of Sioux Falls. You saw housing get a fund in the state legislature, and that's going to help with affordable housing. And if you look at any community that's thriving like ours, affordable housing is a problem in all of those areas because people want to come here. We're not going to just be able to stop people from coming into Sioux Falls. So we got housing done through the advocacy of Forward Sioux Falls, the Chamber, and the Development Foundation. We have the DSU Cyber Research Applied Science Building. This is going to be a partnership with the City of Sioux Falls, the State of South Dakota, private donors, and then Forward Sioux Falls, of which is made up of many private donors from the smallest businesses to the biggest businesses in Sioux Falls. You also have the Discovery District. Wow. You're talking about high-paying jobs. I don't know what the DSU rate was, but they'll be talking a little later, so listen in there. Second, Discovery District, biotechnical research and marketing. I think it's going to be outstanding what they're doing out at the Discovery District, and we're going to partner with that too. So I would say that that's just a little of the advocacy. I remember meeting with Bob Munt from the Development Foundation. I went over to his office and he described what he was doing for workforce and the initiatives that they were putting in place because that was a priority of mine. I went over there and I talked to him about that, and he told me exactly what they were doing and what they were going to accomplish through this new through the new initiative through Forward Sioux Falls. I don't know how many volunteers they had, but I was a part of the volunteer corps of the younger people that are now going out and making the asks because since 1987, which is 34 years ago, they have put us on a trajectory that is far different from our sister city down to the south in Sioux City. So I think if you want to look at some of the accomplishments, they're all surrounding that. It's all around economic development. It's all around being a team. And that's why we support this. And that's why we have in the past. And that's why we've gotten information through the informational in the summer when we talked about when we talked about this line item on the budget. We talked about this. It was out there. And, you know, that's why I would just urge you to not support the substitute motion. Go back to my motion and pass that. So thank you very much.
All right. Other discussion on this item? Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Who can answer me a question where if this is delayed, is it going to throw anything off track? I understand the point that's being made. I also am a big supporter of what's we're talking about program-wise. Is there anything that we're going to be missing out on, or timelines, deadlines, anything if this gets deferred?
Yeah, no, I don't, that probably wouldn't throw a wrench in that. I just will remind that every year we do try to bring our economic development contracts, because they are substantial, before you at the front end of the budget cycle. So to Councilor Jensen's point, it was talked about at that point. It was in the budget at the $500,000 level. But we did get a little late probably getting them in front of you this year, but we would certainly bring all of our people before, all our contracts to you before the budget cycle starts. So that's kind of the reporting cycle that we've been on. And so it was February 9th, I believe, that Bob was here, talked about the Development Foundation and Forward Sioux Falls.
Okay. Yeah. I believe communication's pretty good, but I do get the point that I hear too, that I heard today through counselors too. Sometimes things are coming at us last minute and through these type of things, so I kind of understand that. I just want to make sure that if we did defer it, that we're not tinkering with the beams too much here. So thank you for the answer. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Other discussion, council? All right, we got a motion on the floor then to defer to April 5th. Let's take a vote on that.
Council members Kylie,
No.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Nope.
All right, that motion to defer passes 6-2. Next item, please.
Item 53, new 2022-23 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine License for Trifecta Holdings Incorporated, Crown Casino, Ellis 4, 2912 South Ellis Road, CUP not required. Item 54, request to add video lottery terminals with the 2022-23 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine License for Trifecta Holdings Incorporated, Crown Casino, Ellis 4, 2912 South Ellis Road. Item 55, new 2022-23 retail malt beverage South Dakota Wine License for Trifecta Holdings Incorporated, Crown Casino, Ellis 5, 2914 South Ellis Road, CUP not required. Item 56, request to add video lottery terminals with the 2022-23 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine License for Trifecta Holdings Incorporated, Crown Casino, Ellis 5, 2914 South Ellis Road. Item 57, new 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine License and new 2022 retail wine and cider license for MR2T LLP, Rick's Wine Bar, 330 South Main Avenue, CUP not required. Item 58, new 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine License for Crystal Investment Incorporated, Black Diamond Casino 4, 5113 West 41st Street, Suite 104. Item 59, request to add video lottery terminals with the 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine License for Crystal Investment Incorporated, Black Diamond Casino 4, 5113 West 41st Street, Suite 104. Item 60, new 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine License for Shively Development LLC, DH Pub Sports, 5219 West 26th Street, CUP not required. Item 61, transfer of 2022 retail wine and cider license from MG Oil Company, Jokers 3, 5005 West 12th Street, to MG Oil Company, 777 North Casino B, 1709 West Legion Drive, Suite B. Item 62, transfer of 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm Wine License and 2022 retail wine and cider license from Ovations Food Services, LP, Sioux Falls Canaries Baseball, 1001 Northwest Avenue, to True North Sports, LLC, Sioux Falls Canaries, 1001 Northwest Avenue. Item 63, special one-day malt beverage license for Fernson Brewing Company, LLC, to be operated at Great Outdoor Store, 201 East 10th Street, for a gear and beer event on May 21st, 2022. And item 64, special one-day malt beverage license for Holy Spirit Church, 3601 East Dudley Lane, for a special event on August 21st, 2022.
Hi, Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with Licensing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for items 53 through 64.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anyone from the public here to speak on items 53 to 64? Good evening.
I didn't even know that one of the,
Please state your name.
Sierra Broussard Sioux Falls, that one of the individuals was here for transfer of liquor, wine and beer license. But I want people to notice in item 61, MG Oil. These people have been phenomenal in doing their liquor license, abiding by the laws on all of their casinos, taking problematic casinos and turning them over and getting the police call volumes down to hardly nothing. These individuals also own Lucky Ladies, and look how it's changed. Now they have Jokers here at 5005 West 12th Street. Mind you, the owner or the owners does not have to put money into these things to flip them around. okay? I don't think they're doing it to get rich. But they sure in the hell doing a good job in this city. And I think that a lot of other people that's down here that I see that have problems with their casinos needs to follow in their footsteps on this. MG Oil should get a standing ovation for their efforts in their casinos here tonight.
All right, thank you. Anyone else here to speak on any of these items? All right, I take a motion to approve items 53 to 64.
So moved, Erickson.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Erickson, seconded by Kylie. Any discussion on that motion?
Mr.
Councilor
Mayor,
Dyson?
I just, and I want to be really clear, I'm going to support these four, but I thought it was important to just raise awareness about 53 through 56. This is in my area of town. The reason it just kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit is that this is part of a 4-unit strip mall. It's a new strip mall. We recently approved one video lottery casino it's 4 units, and the one that just opened is a Crown casino that's on the southernmost tip. Now that one is interesting because it has 3 different licenses. So it has 30 machines and it has 3 different doors that go in, which is and it's with the new setup, and I was able to tour it with the owner, who was nice enough to take me through it, and incredibly nice facility. They do a really nice job, but it does have the new setup that we now allow with shared coolers, and essentially the employee can go back and forth. But it does have 30 machines, and there is a strip mall just maybe 200 feet away that's another branded video lottery casino that's going to open, so that's another 30 machines. And then in this strip mall where there's 3, they are now, and that's in 1 unit of 4, they're now taking over, they own the building, I should say. They're converting the unit right next to it into this, which is going to be 2 more licenses, and they're taking the wall down, and so there's going to be 50 machines. There's going to be 5 licenses, and so I just wanted to raise awareness of that because I think that's potentially the most that there is. It's not in the state, but it's the most that there is in Sioux Falls. This is definitely a new thing. I did have a little bit of consternation about it, I guess, just based on the numbers, but touring it and dealing with the Crown Casino folks, when I've seen their other operations, they run a very high-class facility, and I do know people do have concerns about video lottery at times. That being said, in my 6 years, I haven't really seen any of those concerns really cash out. I haven't seen extra crime. I haven't seen noise. I haven't seen problems. So whatever one thinks about video lottery or not, I've seen them to be, frankly, a very, very good neighbor. But I thought it was at least worth pointing it out because I just didn't want it to just pass that we were approving essentially what's going to be a single operation with 50 machines, because that's pretty sizable. So again, I'm going to fully support it because they run a good operation. I don't see that there's going to be any problems whatsoever in the neighborhood, but I did want people to be aware of that. Thanks.
All right, any other discussion here before we vote? All right, let's vote on them, please.
Council members Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
All right, those items are going to pass 8-0. Move on to the next item, please.
Item 65, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota approving permanent easements, private applicant, Sharapa 2 QOZB LLC.
Good evening, Dustin.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Dustin Powers, Planning and Development Services. As shared at first reading last week, the developer of the Sharapa Place development downtown has requested a no-build easement across city property. The city property is a linear strip of land on the eastern portion of the rail yard redevelopment area. This is land that we've retained for the construction of a bike trail through the rail yard redevelopment area. The bike trail in this area actually has already been constructed and can be seen on the screen underneath the area of the easement. The no-build easement is a 7.33-foot easement that protrudes into the city property. What this would allow would be the current placement, the proposed placement of the parking structure as well as the design. This would allow the Sharapa development to maximize that space and location of the structure that they've proposed. The no-build easement doesn't impact the city's ability to use or have a bike trail or landscaping in the area. And in reference to our rail yard redevelopment plan, we don't have any other plans for any other infrastructure in the area that the no-build easement would affect. So planning and development is supporting this item and ask for your approval.
All right, thanks, Dustin. Anyone from the public who would like to speak on 65 tonight? Council, you got any questions for Dustin here? All right, look for a motion.
Move approval?
Second, Erickson.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Erickson. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 66, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations to support construction and operation of the Dakota State University Applied Cyber Research Lab located in the Sioux Falls Cyber Innovation Park in the City of Sioux Falls. $10 million, sponsors the mayor.
All right, I just passed the gavel to Council Chair Sale, as I did the first reading on this, because I'm going to speak to this item to kick it off, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Griffiths from DSU to speak as well. Sean Pritchett, who was here for first reading to speak on finances, is gone. We have Tom Huber here with the city finance team if there's questions on the financial pieces of this. Much of the same comments just to kick this off. We've already heard this project discussed tonight. What this is appropriation from the city for infrastructure and programmatic support of a cyber research building to house DSU's Applied Research Lab. And that building will be located in the new Sioux Falls Cyber Innovation Park. And why we call it a Cyber Innovation Park is, in addition to this lab, Sanford's Virtual Healthcare Center will also be out there. So we're really truly building an innovation park and an innovation hub in that land. That land being gifted by Sanford Health, as we've talked about earlier, very unique partnership here. It's very rare, as I've talked about almost ad nauseum, but I don't get sick of talking about it, how unique it is to have this many partners come together for a project like this. And that's not normal. In a lot of communities, a lot of cities, it's not normal for all these entities to work well together for a common good. So between Sanford Health, DSU, the Board of Regents, private philanthropists, T. Denny Sanford, the City of Sioux Falls, Forward Sioux Falls, everyone's marching in the same direction to make this project happen. For us, when we talk about good paying jobs, this is it. This is a project that fits that bill. When completed, the project will have 500 six-figure jobs. It's hard for me to remember the last time we saw an injection of jobs that size and that scale here in the city of Sioux Falls, if ever. And so this is a very historic project for us. It diversifies our economic base in this community. It's been a tireless effort by a lot of different people over many, many months, including the woman you're going to hear from next, who has talked about this project more than anyone else. And so I'm going to invite her up, and while she's coming up, I'm just going to close by saying the support tonight of this will be the final step in this. SB 54 and SB 130 passed the legislature. We anticipate the governor signing those bills in the next week or so. And at that point, any appropriation from the city of Sioux Falls, if passed tonight, will be the final hurdle in this project. And then we turn some shovels and get going. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to Dr. Jose Marie Griffiths with DSU to talk a little bit about the project. Dr. Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am Jose Marie Griffiths, the president of Dakota State University, and I'd like to thank you again for this opportunity to speak about the Cyber Research Initiative and the strength of the public-private partnership that I believe, I hope that you will choose to join today. This cyber research project will include a building of about 100,000 square feet. It'll be a secured facility, and we will house an expansion of DSU's Applied Research Lab there. We anticipate this will stimulate a new economy in Sioux Falls and beyond. And by bringing 400 to 500 high-paying research jobs in Sioux Falls, it will help diversify your workforce. The starting salaries today for our graduates who've just graduated is $100,000. So by the time we open this new facility in a couple of years, they will have gone up. And we are also bringing back, if our graduates have a master's degree, they're typically starting at somewhere between $135,000 and $150,000 per year. To give you a sense. So these are high-paying jobs. The creation of a state-of-the-art, world-class lab will, with appropriate expertise and an expanded and accelerated pipeline of talent, will attract more cybersecurity companies and more IT businesses to locate nearby. We are hoping to, with the state has appropriated $30 million, sorry, my head's a little bit crazy right now. I drove back at noon from Rapid City, where I was talking about this, to the Defense Symposium, the Black Hills Defense Symposium. So sorry about that. Is $30 million from the state will allow us to double the production of graduates from the Beacon College of Computer and Cyber Sciences. And those additional students, we hope, will increasingly opt to stay in the state and work here on cybersecurity initiatives. I also anticipate that new ideas, new research solutions will emerge from the labs, and new ventures and businesses will result. So there's going to be a multiplier effect of having the first set of jobs in place that hopefully will stimulate the economy even more. Such an intensity of activity will increase the recognition of Sioux Falls and South Dakota as a Midwest cyber research hub. And I think that is important. There's increasing recognition that the United States can't operate all of its facilities on one coast or another. It's way too expensive to do that. And recognizing the value of the people, the work ethic, the lifestyle that we can offer in this part of the world is very, very significant. I'd like, if you don't mind, to tell you a little bit about how world-class our graduates are. And it's not just a testament to the young people who come to Dakota State and the people that you bring up as your sons and daughters, nephews and nieces, etc. It's a testament to the faculty at DSU who are committed to teaching and who offer programs that are state-of-the-art. The federal government recently decided that it was going to field a U.S. cyber team for the inaugural World Cyber Games. And cyber games are like war games. They're not recreational games. They're war games. And we're going to have the first international Olympics, if you like, of war games in Athens in June of this year. 800 college students from around the country applied. They went through a series of tests over a period of several weeks. And that number of over 800 was winnowed down to 80. And 80 students were invited to the Compact, NFL term, I understand, where you test out on various exercises. So our students were tested not only on cyber capabilities, but on integrity, on their commitment to service, on the activities, leadership activities they've engaged in on campus, etc. And finally, it came down to the draft. And the intent of the draft was to select the travel team of 20 to represent the United States in the World Cyber Games. And then there was a team of 5 alternates that were selected. At the end of the selection period, DSU had 4 representatives on that team. We have 20% of the US inaugural Cyber Games team. And 2 other institutions had 2 representatives, and everybody else had 1. So I think that alone is an indication of the value that DSU can bring and the value that young people represent, and we can hold our own with the rest of the world. So you're going to have, hopefully, a bunch of these wonderful young people who come from this part of the world, who want to stay in this part of the world because of the quality of life that they have access to here. And they are going to just contribute in ways that we can't imagine to national security and national cyber defense. In closing, I just want to say the public-private partnership is, in fact, I believe, in some respects, the real asset to the project. Some might think, oh my gosh, you have so many masters, if you like, involved in this. Why would you do that? It would be a big headache. But it's actually the strength. Having that many partners all aligning interests along with this project is significant. And I think actually that will propel us forward and that will contribute to our success. So I thank you very much for being able to talk to you about this again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this item?
Slancha, Scott Arisman, Sioux Falls. Believe it or not, I didn't really support this at first, but I support it. I think it's a great thing. But as you know, I'm about process. And this process was about as sloppy as you could get. First, we had a legislature we thought we were going to get money from, and then they said they weren't going to give the money, and then they decided to give the money, but then they're only giving money towards faculty. They're not giving money to building the building. 500 jobs, totally believe it. These are high demand jobs. Do I believe those 500 jobs are going to be in Sioux Falls? No. Like most of my friends that are single and professionals, yes, they got out of college, they worked in Sioux Falls for a few years, they got their legs and they left. And it wasn't because they didn't like Sioux Falls. They had multiple reasons why they left. The weather, entertainment, the weather. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people won't want to live here. And I'm just going to say the 500 jobs I kind of believe, but they're not all going to be in Sioux Falls. Let's look at reality. Not everybody that's going to work at this place is going to want to work there for the rest of their lives in Sioux Falls. They're going to maybe work there for 3 or 4 years and they're going to move on. But that's great because we're building students, we're building cybersecurity people. That's wonderful. They're going to be here for a time period, learning at our place and stuff like that. So that's good. That's good. It's economic development, so that's good. But I want to talk a little bit about the process of how we got here. First of all, you guys still haven't seen last year's budget. You finally got a glimpse of it last week. There was nothing on the agenda that a citizen could download and see, but your finance director came up here and he flashed some charts. Luckily, I screenshot them about how much money we have, but you still haven't got a financial report. So I don't know how you can dedicate $10 million when you don't know where it's coming from. You have that. You had secret meetings to bring this forward. Everybody knows that. Except the citizens. They don't really know that because it was secret meetings. You're doing this right before an election. I don't know why this can't wait until after the election and when, nothing's been stuck into the ground yet. There's no bulldozers. I drive by the place every day, twice a day. It's just a hunk of dirt. There's no reason why this can't wait till after April 12th and have a discussion about where the money's coming from. Another thing that I know this $10 million that's just this, I always liked it when we give money to people. It's always this flat rate. It says 10 million or 5 million. And it doesn't really make sense of where it came from. Kind of like, we're going to be voting on the raise for the mayor and it was originally because $1 a person. That makes a lot of sense. Anyway, so the president last time was up here from DSU and she was asked about we're going to be doing with this $10 million. Well, she said we're going to do some infrastructure. Well, there's already a road out there. The water and sewer and everything else is already out there, so it's not for that. We know that. But she said it's going to be for lights, sidewalks, and landscaping. And then she kind of chuckled and said, but we don't really know that number yet because we don't have the plans. And that's why I keep asking, why are we dedicating $10 million to a project that's a great project, but not having a sit down and a discussion about where's the money going, what's it being spent on, when is it going to be spent, do we need to give this booty prize money out before an election? No. Come on, people. You know how bad this looks. And you continually do this, and you guys are the purse strings. I don't know why all of a sudden the booty prizes are coming from City Hall. And then when you guys get handed it and you don't vote for it, you look bad because you didn't support the booty prize. That's not fair. I thought you guys are the ones that decide where the money goes, but apparently we hide the finances from you and give out booty prizes for an election. You can get free breakfast tomorrow too at the convention center, which nobody knows who's paying for that. Thank you.
Anyone else for public input?
Like there's Sioux Falls, I'm going to support the mayor on this, even though I think we got better things we can spend 10 million on. But I think going forward, I think we should, when you appropriate a budget, we should stick to it. And another thing that comes to mind is where does the money come from? I mean, obviously it's coming from surplus funds. At what point do we start deciding where our money is coming from? I mean, a lot of our money comes from state and federal grants, loans, stuff like that. So at what point are we going to continue to overtax the taxpayer to create these large $10 million budgets? I mean, coming in June, we're going to be voting on an amendment that really is going to restrict the people on how do we raise taxes and fees coming at the state level. I really think at some point we need to have that discussion at the city level. I mean, $10 million is a lot of money, and I think at some point during the budget discussions coming forward, we should really stop and think how are we going to start bringing in all this revenue in the future when the tax revenue is getting it goes up, but we're taking more and more funds from other sources. So I mean, every year we have a surplus, and at some point we probably should give some of that money back to people in the form of tax cuts or tax decreases. That's all I want to say. I think whether you pass it today, I think support the mayor and bringing jobs to Sioux Falls. That's probably the priority right there. Thanks.
Anyone else for public input?
Good evening, City Council. My name is Jeff Griffin. I'm president of the Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce. And I stood before you last week in support of this, and nothing has changed. Obviously, the Chamber, you guys all know what we do, and this is a dream project for a community. First of all, to be able to stand in front of a city council that has the foresight and the ambition to reinvest some surplus dollars into such a large project. Plus, the timing works out well for you because you get to be the last, timing-wise, to get this across the finish line next week, hopefully. We're very confident that's going to happen. I've traveled with I first met President Griffiths about day 2 on the job a little over 2 years ago, and the passion President Griffiths brings to this specific sector and our connections that she has nationwide, internationally, have really helped drive this project. So it's been in the planning for years, and I've traveled with her back and forth to Pierre through the session to get through the hurdles and help educate our legislators who eventually obviously passed that. But this is a historic event to get the cybersecurity sector into our state, not just for Sioux Falls, but for the entire state. This opens up a whole new avenue for us. And with 1,900 businesses, as I said last week, it creates a lot of confidence within our other sectors, the service, the development, finance, our young professionals, our entrepreneurial community, all gain confidence when they see a community willing to make such a large investment to diversify our economy. The Forward Sioux Falls component of this was a much smaller financial contribution than the others, but it speaks to the spirit of the Sioux Falls. The dollars to get the planning going is one piece, but we were also able to, with President Griffiths and our partners, to help educate investors on what the future of cybersecurity can be in Sioux Falls. And that was very beneficial as we got through the hurdles in the legislative session over this past 9 weeks. So I urge your support, and I'll stand by for questions. Thank you.
Anyone else for public input on this subject? Councilors, do you have questions for staff or for Dr. Griffiths? Councilor Neitzer.
We've heard a lot about this, so I just need to be reminded. Was there an accompanying development agreement or anything that stipulates what the money should or must be used for, or is it just go do good things?
The intent will be a contract through, and we're going to run it through Planning and Development Services. It'll be a subsidy agreement or similar to the other contracts we have.
When would you expect we would see that?
I don't have a timeline on that. Director Pritchard's been working on that, and I'm not sure exactly when he was going to bring that.
Will the money be released before that?
I wouldn't, not until we have a contract, I would imagine.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Can I have a motion?
Move approval?
Second, Brecky.
Motion by Selberg, second by Brecky. Is there discussion amongst the council? Counselor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned last week, I enthusiastically support this program. I think it is a game changer for both Sioux Falls and South Dakota. When you're spending $10 million to partner with an additional 80, certainly seems to make a lot of sense and offer a lot of opportunity. I know they've talked about a lot as they laid out some of the arguments about how we're going to need to get more of a workforce and keep graduates here. We're losing 2/3 of our graduates out of state. I would say having something to this effect where we're putting 500 six-figure jobs in this area is certainly going to help, and the ripple effect that that's going to have not only on the professionals that brings to this town and what goes from there and how that parlays over to other businesses and growth, I think is just, the potential is endless. So I think it's a down payment on something where, again, the potential is endless. I'm very happy to support it. We've generally been pretty supportive of public-private partnerships, and as I think the mayor had said last week, this is a public-private partnership, and a lot of impressive people and organizations involved and did a lot of work to this. So I will be supporting it tonight. Thank you.
Other comments? Counselor Erickson.
Thank you. I was in Pierre when this went through the legislative process, and it was a roller coaster because it was up and then flowing, and then all of a sudden stripped from the dollars that were in there, and then they were put back. And it was such a moving piece and such a crazy process with a lot of bills actually this year. And so it was fun to see you all show up and lobby for this and be active in this. It is. We always talk about what's the return of our investment and what, you know, if somebody's going to match dollars or if we can extend those dollars, it's so critical. I do echo the sentiments that I'd hope the dollars are not expended until we get the contract. I think that sets a terrible precedent, but I know you've never done that before anyways. So I think that's a critical component to it too. This is the first step in matching and showing the state that this is our commitment and that we are willing to do this. It's not very often that Sioux Falls fares as well as it did this legislative session. I don't want to jinx us, but we've got some really good things going on, from this project to the USD Discovery District and just a plethora of other things. And so it's a great time to be in Sioux Falls and a great time for educational opportunities and employment as well. So I look forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Counselor Kiley.
Thank you, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to speak to this. This is a project, Cyber Research Lab is a project that's critical to each and every one of us in this room, because all of us are going to benefit from it. And it is critical to the security of this nation, quite frankly, that we continue to make advances. And it's amazing that to think that it's going to happen right here in our part of the country, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And we're going to attract some of the greatest and best minds to this area. I often talk about return on investment. This is one of those times where it's an easy decision to make. We invest $10 million, and then we have other partners that are going to increase that eightfold, over eightfold, up to $90 million. The collaboration, one of the things that has impressed me the most over my 8 years on this council is the cooperation and the collaboration that takes place among different entities, public and private, in this particular area. And every time that I have somebody that comes in from out of this region or out of state, they always talk about that. It's amazing that you have this level of cooperation, sometimes amongst competing entities. How do you do that? Well, we do it, and it pays off. And it will, as Councilor Selberg mentioned, it's going to pay off in just increasing our tax base. We're going to be creating up to 500 well-paying jobs, and people are clamoring for well-paying jobs, and this is something that's going to actually do that. So I think I know I will be supporting this, and the number of partnerships that are involved in this particular project is indicative of the quality of the project. So I'm pleased to cast a yes vote on this item this evening.
Other comments? Councilor Brecky?
I'd just like to add a few comments to what my fellow council members have already spoke about. I do think that this plan and this opportunity truly will change the trajectory for the city of Sioux Falls and for our future in a really positive way. I can't think of better, cleaner, environmentally friendly business opportunity I'd want to bring into this community that's going to have spin-off possibilities as well. We've been fortunate with our medical community. You know, we've been fortunate environmentally from, you know, some of the things that have just happened, and this is just another one of those. Citibank, a lot of cities would love to have this kind of an opportunity, so I will certainly be supportive of moving us, you know, strongly into this new arena, into this new age. And I would make one comment about the opportunity that it provides not only for those graduates that will be coming out of DSU, but also for those graduates that want to come back to Sioux Falls. I am of that age where my children are grown, and my friends, in my friend group, 3 different couples had 3 different sets of children come back from California, from New York, from Wisconsin, because they're married with kids now and they want to come home. So I think it's not only those new graduates that may stay here and then may go come back, but I think it's going to be kind of a circular thing where we'll have no trouble filling those 500 jobs with, you know, with some of our own homegrown people and other people that will want to come to live here when they you know, learn about us. So I'm terribly excited and more than happy to support it. Thank you.
Other comments, councilors? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Council members Kiley? Yes. Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 67, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 30, City Council, Section 30.022, ordinances, resolutions, motions, and other documents requiring council approval by defining substantially alters in SDCL 9-19-7.1. Sponsors, council members Brecky and Starr.
Thank you. I gave a more detailed explanation last week, so I'll shorten my explanation this week. Basically, I would just start with, this is the language from state law in which we are currently under the authority of, and the language in this paragraph that has been causing us problems is the language substantially altered. And that phrase, undefined, has evolved into a very restrictive process for us, and it tends to handcuff us from openly discussing, amending, and compromising during meetings. It handcuffs us in such a way that it's been causing us to kind of, you know, go behind the scenes and try to get things done before we come to the meeting, and that's something, you know, that I like to discourage. I think this amendment and the purpose for proposing it is to solve that problem and encourage open and public collaboration, you know, of an amendment process that will take place during the open meeting process. So it would allow us to collaborate, discuss right at the table, and come to compromise amendment situations without being locked down to something that has to be published beforehand. So what it does is just add the language. If you'll go to the next slide. You know, substantially alters means alterations to a proposed ordinance so significant as to amount to a new proposal from that which was noticed and heard. So the real addition of the language there is so significant and to a new proposal. And basically, the intent there is to not do something that denies the public the ability to participate because they didn't know what we were doing, because we didn't give adequate notice. So it requires it to be a really substantial change before we would have to require re-notification. So this would allow us, in the normal course of our business, to actually discuss things across the table, you know, right during the meeting in front of people, in a collaborative fashion and reach compromise in a public forum. So I view this as a transparency amendment, an amendment that allows us to operate publicly and really encourages active participation in the meeting process.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on this item, come on up.
Lunch. Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls. I think this is a great idea. I have noticed that starting in the last administration, there was this push to write agenda items to be very mysterious. And if you were a regular citizen who actually decided to go to the agenda page and click on an agenda item and didn't know that there was a PDF on the side that you could go read, and you would just read the agenda, you'd be like, what the heck is this? And it's been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. There was an item, and I was trying to remember when I was sitting there what it was, but there was an item a few months ago that somebody tipped me off about, and I went to the item number, and I'm like, are they the right item number? Because that doesn't say anything about what they're talking about. Well, I clicked on the item, and I went to PDF. I had to get to about page 16 to actually figure out what the actual agenda item was about. Boy, that's open government, folks. You got to read 16 pages of a document just to figure out what an agenda item is about. It's awful. I think this is a good thing. I think you should do more of this stuff. I think it should be very easy for any layperson to come to the meeting, grab the agenda off the podium over there, read the agenda item, not attachments on a website, and know exactly what that agenda item is when they read it, or easily explained to them. I mean, I look at the zoning ones; those are hilarious. You do have to click on the PDFs to figure out what those are. Lot 364 died T12569416489216929 Oh, what's that? And you gotta go look at maps and all this other stuff. That's not open and transparent government. It's like we're playing a Wordle or something like that, or I don't know, whatever those games are. But you need to make this more understandable. You need to work harder at making it more understandable. We have a lot of lawyers that work for the city. We got a lot of directors that work for the city. We got tons of people in the finance department. We got tons of people in the council staff. We have many well-paid, talented people that work for the city that can figure out a way to write an agenda item and make it understandable. And the comments of Councilor Brecky about being able to have a legislative process up here, being able to amend things and fix them, while you're sitting here. Why, it was like this deferral tonight. It was like pulling teeth. Geez, we're going to have a deferral. Oh, my goodness gracious. How dare that we actually want to know where the money's going? That's what you're up here for. That's what we have meetings for. We have meetings so you can discuss these things and have a debate. It's not like the school board who all call each other up on Sunday afternoon and figure out how they're going to vote the next day and then have a 5-minute meeting because it's like, they're done. So that's what you do, It's sad that Janet and Pat actually have to bring this forward. It shouldn't be like this. You should just be doing your job. And you should be demanding that when people pick up an agenda, they can understand it. And like I said, it didn't start this administration. It started last administration towards the end. I noticed it. And it's just, do you guys literally just knock yourselves out working as hard as you can to make things absolutely not understandable to the public? It's like you're on a mission to not have the public understand things. It's like, we cannot let them know what's going on. They're going to become dangerous. You know, the people who fund the government, you know, we're the ones that fund it collectively, the voters and other people, you know, kind of like to know what you're doing with our money. Kind of how it works.
All right, thanks. Anyone else here to speak on this?
Hello, I'm Catherine Riffle. I'd just like to say that I don't like games and hiding things behind a bunch of words. If you're going to say it right out, say it clear, understandable, even for somebody that doesn't have a, as I've heard one person say, a full brain. Well, this kind of stuff, this is ridiculous. I come in here to listen to our community and our representatives who are voicing opinions and growing our city. But when you put all this garb in here, the only thing I get out of the whole page is a word called Graceland. I mean, it's ridiculous. Come on and be more open about it. So you got to type a little bit better, a little longer, do it. If you, I know you don't like community input, but you got to listen to the people of our area. That's why we come in here. I come in here for a couple weeks to help others. I've been here for, what,
This
a
is
couple
about
years now?
altering
And-
items on the agenda.
Pardon me?
This is about altering items on the agenda.
Right, well,
and the
that's what I'm
definition.
saying, is when I come in here all those times, I don't understand this stuff. I mean, you're right, you know, make it clearer. Give it to us in more suitable terms that we can understand where you're going with the decisions you're making and where you're going with the dollars you're spending. So that's my point of view. Okay.
Anyone else here to speak on this tonight?
Mike Zers of Sioux Falls. I just want to initially, I do think this administration's been probably one of the most transparent administrations we've had in a long time. I know some people like to attack this administration, but in my opinion, I think this current mayor has done a very good job. I think anytime you push for more transparency, I think it's better than makes it better. I think one question I have with it is if Janet or whoever can answer the question. If we were to adopt this policy, if you read the text of the statute, does this actually create a third reading? And if that's the case, what happens if we do substantially change a proposal? Do we just vote down, like in the past, we would just vote down and bring it back as a first reading? If we were to adopt this, according to state law, it would pretty much initiate a special meeting, or within 5 days, you have to have another public meeting, which could be the next city council meeting. So my thought is for a discussion. What if we do adopt this tonight? What if we come back in the future to fine tune our ordinances to create a policy among the ordinances in the forward? I got thinking the 30.13. Why would if we adopt a new procedure in the meetings itself, to bring it back as a third meeting? I mean, it'd be interesting to see what kind of your thoughts are, and if we were to adopt this policy. So, in my opinion, it creates the third reading that we could very easily put on the agenda for next week as a totally separate item. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mike. Anyone else here to speak on this tonight? All right, council, let's get a motion on the floor and then we can go into discussion on it.
Move to approve, Brecky.
Second, Starr.
All right, motion by Brecky, seconded by Starr. Councilor Jensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Brecky, if you would be able to, I know you talked about that we've had these sorts of problems here in the past. Could you just elaborate on one specific problem that this would have been able to resolve?
I guess I've heard from several of my fellow council members. I've got to think a minute of all the different ones. It has to do with being required to print in advance your amendment. One scenario that comes to mind was the mayor's salary. I got the information on, on the deadline, which is, Friday at 3? And thought, geez, that seems awful high to me, 195. We hadn't had the presentation yet. And so I just threw out an amendment because I knew I had to notice it just in case it was a substantial alteration. I'd have to notice it and put it on the agenda, so in order we could even discuss an amendment to it, just in case, because again, there's some unclearness about that. So I put it on there, and then over the weekend did the research. And, my research would indicate maybe the amendment I put on, had to put on in order to meet that deadline, really wasn't supported by the research. But by then, the council members, we had talked, and there was support for the amendment. So to me, to be able to talk about the salary at the table while we were all sitting up here would have made far more sense than being saddled with an amendment, that didn't have really the research to support it, but I had no time.
Thank you for your answer. Mr. Mayor, may I continue?
Councilor Jensen, go ahead.
One of the other questions that I had is, let's say you were to bring that amendment just the night of the meeting, right? And you'd put that on potentially after we'd go through the whole public input process, and that amendment would come on then thereafter. So how do we give the public then the ability to speak on that? I'm just questioning that, because I just want to make certain that we get the public's input specifically on these amendments, because the way you did it in the case that you mentioned, the people could come and speak on that amendment, which was a big deal. So in this scenario, will the public get to speak on that amendment that you would have brought that night rather than put on the agenda the Friday there before?
Well, we would have taken public input on the proposed ordinance change, but then the amendment process, then is up to the council to decide at that point.
So just to clarify, there'd be no public input at that time. Would that be true? On that amendment specifically?
On that amendment specifically.
Okay. And then one of the other questions that I have, and the state defines, a lot of the rules that we play by and the words that we live with. So what if the Supreme Court says, this isn't how we view this definition? And who monitors that? Are we going to monitor that as a body to make sure that we're following state law with the definitions that are out there?
Well, this is an exercise of our home rule powers. And again, I've specifically in this proposed ordinance exercised our home rule powers to add a definition where one doesn't exist. However, state law can be more restrictive than we are, and we have to abide by that. So if there's either Supreme Court case or an amendment is put forth by the state legislature that's more restrictive than ours, then we would need to amend the ordinance and comply.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So thank you very much, and
all right,
go on to comments.
Other questions or discussion, council, on this? Councilor Neitzer?
Yeah, I've given this quite a bit of thought because it's an interesting item. And I think the goal is commendable, and it sounds like maybe Councilor Jensen and I might have been going down some parallel tracks and not maybe aware of it. So, as I've kind of looked at this, the state law change came from listening back at the meeting from a legislator who had seen an issue in Mobridge where, and I think the sponsor had mentioned this, where an ordinance was changed at second reading that would have funded the local Chamber of Commerce, and then it was changed at second reading to fund a pool bond. I don't think it was challenged in court, so I don't know that was tested, but I think that raised the concern and caused her to bring that amendment to add that language that substantially alters. Also of interest, and this is something that I remember from back at that time, and the attorneys were able to find it for me because I couldn't find it, was a case that occurred in 2015. And I apologize to everyone. This is all inside baseball, technical stuff. But essentially, in that Turner County Board of Commissioners case, at the second reading, they had a zoning ordinance, and at the second reading, they amended it. and they changed the calculation as it related to CAFOs. And very simply, what it did was, under the original proposal calculation that came into second reading, a CAFO would have had to have been about 5.5 miles from a town or 2.6 miles from a home or a church. And they made a technical revision, amendment to the ordinance, and that change brought that separation distance down from 5.5 to 2.2 miles to a city, and 2.6 miles down to 1 mile. So they essentially cut it to a third of the separation distance. They didn't change anything else, but that's what they did. So that was brought to court. That was Joffer et al. Against Turner County Board of Commissioners. And to be clear, the county zoning ordinances are different. But anyway, at the time, that particular state law said very clearly that after it went through the planning commission, the county commission had to either adopt or reject it, period. There was it didn't say anything that they could amend it. So that was brought to court, people challenging that change. And the Turner County attorneys representing them argued that the court should look to the Colorado Supreme Court decision that actually has verbiage about substantial alteration that it was added to state law. And they said, because there's no case law in South Dakota, so they said you should look to this. Now the court looked at that, and what they found was, what that judge found, the circuit court, and this did not go to the South Dakota Supreme Court, so we don't know what they think about it, but anyway, what this judge said was, this particular law is very clear. You can't amend it, period, end of issue. So I don't have to reach the question of whether it substantially alters it or not. But he did say, he did go on to say, and he analyzed it, and he said, even if it were the law, I would have found that that was a substantial alteration, and that would have violated had the Colorado law been in place. I don't know whether that's controlling or not, obviously, but that gives at least some guidance. So again, I think it would be great if this was clear. It isn't. There's a lot of things I think that, obviously in law aren't clear, like what is substantial alteration, and obviously I think all of us would potentially, like if I said a marijuana was 1,000 feet from residential and then at second reading, we change it to 250, one of you might think it's substantial, I might not. There could be and honestly, I don't think, nobody's gonna know until it's tested. And I don't know that what I think about it, or even what I would put in an ordinance, has any relevance to what a court would say about it. So that's I guess my concern. To summarize, currently we're struggling with this substantially alter language, and so what we're looking at doing is potentially putting in, we're saying that we're going to have our own definition that we think of what it would mean, or what it means to us, and it would mean an alteration to a proposed ordinance so significant as to amount to a new proposal from that which was noticed and heard. So if I ask you about the exact same item, the marijuana situation, if I polled all 8 of us, would we agree on if that was so significant as to amount to a new proposal from that which was heard? I think you could honestly have some disagreement about that. So I think you might be trading one struggle with what does a law mean for another, and then maybe, to me, I would think we have to follow our own law. So if we make some decision and pass an ordinance and we make an amendment, could somebody bring us to court and challenge us on 2 grounds, the state law violation and saying that we violated our own city ordinance? So that may be 2 angles of attack. So I would welcome any rebuttal, because this has been a complicated issue. So I think it's a great thing to try to do, but I just don't know whether I don't think we can unilaterally decide what the law means, and I don't think this makes it necessarily any clearer in my mind. I don't think it gives me any more guidance than I had before. So those are my concerns. Thank you for let me have the lengthy discussion.
All right, other discussion, council? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote on this item, please.
Council members Kiley,
No.
Nitzert,
No.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
No.
Jensen,
No.
All right, that item is tied 4-4. I will be a no vote, so that item will fail 5-4. Next item.
Item 68, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 30 ordinances, resolutions, motions, and other documents requiring council approval by establishing a means for a city attorney official opinion and memorandum of legal advice. Sponsors, council members Brecky and Starr.
Counselor Brecky?
These two ordinance proposals come as a pair, and this one is also an ordinance proposal that I believe, increases transparency and engages the public to become involved in the legal process that is involved in city government. And what this does is provide the opportunity for city council members to request an official city attorney opinion, which already exists, the ability to do that, but this in addition requires that that opinion be public and be preserved. So one would be kept in the city attorney's office and the original would be filed in the city clerk's office. And this will create a body of law for the future so that people can actually see what city attorneys have given as their opinions in the future, and create accountability for city attorneys to follow their predecessors' views unless there's some reason to amend it or supersede it or some law change that would create a necessity for them to overrule it. So the problem that I'm trying to solve here is that, just grab my wrong piece of paper here. The problem that I'm trying to solve here is that there needs to be an ability for the public to know and understand what the legal advice is that we're being given when it's not protected and considered non-public. So it incorporates into this, I've incorporated into this amendment the provision of state law that requires certain things to be kept confidential, and that would be personnel matters, contract matters, and litigation. So those things are not required to be public, but but everything else basically is required to be public. So when we're get advised on procedural matters or just a simple advisement of what the law is, a memorandum advising us of certain procedures, those things can be made public. And when one of the city councilors wants to ask for a public opinion under this ordinance, if they do that and they ask that it be made public, then we can share it publicly and we can share it with our fellow council members as well. I think there are many occasions in which the public has been denied the opportunity to understand what our legal advisor is advising us. And I think it's important for the public trust and the confidence in our process for them to know sometimes why we vote the way we do because of the legal advice we're being given. And there's no state law requirement. In fact, it's just the opposite. I believe the public has a right to know how the council is being advised when it's not privileged by state law. And so that's the purpose of this, is to just, again, create that body of law and engage the public in the process because they can evaluate our decision-making based on the advice we're giving and how we're following it. At the end of the day, the city attorney's office is a legal advisor and they advise us, but we have the power to either ignore their advice or to follow their advice. And the public has the right to know what we're doing, if we're listening to them or if we're not listening to them. So they have a right to see that and hear that, that public advice that we're given, to read that city attorney's opinion and see if we're following it, and to see if they believe it's a good, it's good advice. And so this is an invitation really to bring the public into that legal portion of the public's official business that is done in public. And that's the purpose of this ordinance.
All right. Anybody from the public here to speak on this tonight?
Scott Erisman, Sioux Falls. I really think this is a great idea. It had me thinking about something. Oh, it's been a long time. I think it's been 12 years ago. We were circulating a petition in the city about the sales tax. I don't want to go into big detail about it. But we were trying to get an answer out of the city attorney. I believe it was Edmondson at the time. on the time frame. So we weren't asking him legal advice. We were asking him a question. What is our time frame for collecting the petitions? And he refused to answer the question, saying he doesn't give advice to citizens. And we said, well, this isn't advice. This is a question, procedure question. And then I think we proceeded to have Kermit Staggers, who was sitting on the council, to ask the question and to give us the answer. And he refused to give it to Kermit. Now, I don't want to go into big detail. We got the answer from another attorney. But the sad part is that city attorneys, no matter what we're talking about, their main duty is to the citizens of the city. I'm not saying that they have to give us legal advice. I wouldn't call up Stacy Koistra and ask him, what I should do when someone rear-ended me. But their job is to defend the taxpayers of the city against lawsuits. Like the $26 million hunk of cement we got down there. So it really is a public thing to be the city attorney and to give opinions. It is about us and our best interest. Then their secondary duty is to serve you as the counselors, as our representatives, and the mayor's office, and any other department in the city. Really, that's their job. Why we have to pass an ordinance to make these opinions transparent and open? Once again, like I said on the last item, I don't understand why we work so hard to make government so closed. It's just unbelievable how we just are so scared to death that the citizens are going to find something out and they're going to sue the city, or they're going to do this or going to do that. City gets sued all the time, people. I'll alert you to that. They get sued all the time. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. That's nothing new. I just find it odd. And then we sit, like on the last item, you sat here and debated it, and it was a tie vote. It wasn't that hard to figure out. Why is transparency so hard? It's not. It's easy. It's very easy. There's simple things you can do. You can have an open and transparent government. That should be number one. And then you collect our fees and taxes, and then you give it back to us in services. But instead, we just fight and fight and fight. We can't tell anybody anything. Let's go meet down in the basement of City Hall. Can't let them know anything. They might get wise. Maybe the reason why we have so many low-paying jobs in Sioux Falls is because nobody knows anything in this town. Maybe it's a city of just dumb citizens. Let's think about it. It's kind of laughable that we actually have to sit up here and debate asking our city attorney to make his opinions public. A person who's paid by our taxes. I'll give you my opinion, but don't tell anybody. Might be dangerous. And I've heard stories about where there's been refusals of opinions, whether they stay quiet or not. That's not how you run government. Everybody's objective on this dais and who works for the city should always be looking out for the best interests of the citizens and our tax money. Not an administration, not a city councilor, not some other thing that's going on behind the scenes. That's why we have that $26 million hunk of crap. Is because of lack of transparency and because people who work for the city didn't do their due diligence.
All right, come on up.
Greetings. I'm David Zokaitis, and a couple of years ago, this kind of topic came up in a city council meeting. And at the time, I looked at it, and I found that there was a South Dakota Supreme Court case on it that said that there is no attorney-client privilege for city government. In other words, according to that ruling, the opinions of the city attorney are inherently public, and the city can't hold them to be private. Anyway, I found that information, I presented it here, and nothing happened. Well, so we need a workaround for, I guess, the state Supreme Court ruling, and that workaround is a city ordinance that says, hey, the opinions of the city attorney should be public, because that's what they should be. So I'd like to support the councilors responsible for promoting this measure and to increase transparency among city government.
Anyone else to speak on this?
I mean, Mike, there's I mean, another, anytime you push transparency is probably better, but I think the question we should be asking is define the role of the city attorney versus the attorney general, you know? I mean, what role, who does he represent versus who the attorney general represents? One's elected, one's appointed. I mean, gotta think about this more often. I mean, if we were to adopt this, does it strip the mayor of any more power? I mean, after all, he's the one that appoints the city attorney. He's the one, he appoints the city attorney to provide him advice on how to direct the city. So I mean, at some point, and then on the other hand, at what role do the residents have in requesting advice as well? So I mean, two ways you can look at this. I mean, at one half you want to appreciate the mayor for doing his job. On the other half, you want to protect the residents, give them. But it comes down to what advice are you really asking from the city attorney? Are you asking constitutional opinions, statute opinions, how our ordinances relate to statutes? So I mean, I think this is a tough call. I mean, I don't know if we need to adopt this or not, because I think, truthfully, I think you can request, any resident can request an opinion from the city attorney through the process, whether it's committees, commissions, stuff like that. But I think, or through the city council itself. So I mean, I don't know if there's a big problem here, other than you just want to create more transparency. I think you're always going to make someone mad. So, but it would be nice to hear city attorney provide us more opinion, because I think for the most part, our current city attorney does a very good job. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Sierra Broussard, Sioux Falls. Boy, was this a debate, isn't it? You know, when I came to South Dakota, the laws are different. They need to be revised. And we're back 20 years on things. This is a growing city, and laws need to be changed in Pierre. Okay? I always said, if we want results from the chief of police, when Burns was in there, City Hall controls the chief, right? Because he is not an elected official by the citizens. Stacy Koistra is in the mayor's cabin. He is not an elected official by us. If we want the city attorney to be our city attorney, then we need to vote for our city attorney. And please, because it happens in other states, and I'm a transplant of South Dakota, please do not say that it doesn't happen in other cities, because they do vote for their chief of police in other cities bigger than this city, okay? We need to be up on the times here, because my adrenaline's pumping with ignorance in South Dakota. We need to change that. So then we would have to vote for Koistra, whoever's running up against him, and then that's our city attorney. Now, how the mayor did with Chief Toom, he didn't have to do it that way and let the public engage in it and talk about and debate between him and the other candidate. He didn't have to do it that way, but he was transparent to do it that way, and I appreciate that. But he didn't have to do that because it's his chief of police. It's his cabin. So Christine Noem, in her cabin, we didn't vote for stuff in her cabin, right? She put them in her cabin. They're not there for us, they're there for her. It's her cabin. So I'm not trying to be political, and I'm not trying to bash people here. We need to vote if we want to have the city attorney, the chief of police, the sheriff gets voted by the public too, okay? It's our sheriff. It's not our chief of police, and it's not our city attorney because we did not vote for them. So maybe we need to try to change it and try to get it on the ballot and have an election to see if the people want the city attorney to be voted in or appointed, or the chief of policemen to be appointed. What am I going to talk to Stacy about? I mean, the city attorney's not going to give legal advice here. So what as a citizen am I going to do with Stacy Koister or Keith Allenstein or whoever? I mean, I'm not trying to bash nobody, but I'm just coming to reality here. How is he going to help me? I mean, what is he going to tell me talk about the lawsuits? Let's talk about stuff that's in litigation. Let's talk about stuff that happens in executive session. Absolutely not. So what's on the agenda that Stacy has on his desk or any city attorney that needs to be discussed with the public? We already know about some of the lawsuits because people can't keep their mouth shut that are in the lawsuits. So we already know that. But I want to know from y'all. I want to know what the city attorney is going to give advice to us citizens about. It's due process in due time. The city attorney represents the council and gives them legal advice. The city attorney gives legal advice to the mayor, not to the people. So moving forward, whoever wants to say that the city attorney is for the people, then we need to do a petition, get it on the ballot, and let the people decide if we should elect our city attorney or let it be appointed by the city hall.
Anyone else to speak on this tonight? All right. Council, let's get a motion, please.
Move to approve, Brecky.
Second, Star.
All right. Discussion, council? Go ahead.
I will just speak briefly in favor of it. I believe that the intent of this ordinance is, again, to engage the public in the legal process. It's about transparency. It's about doing the public's business in public. This is a good government process ordinance. It allows the public to be educated on the legal advice part of the city's business and part of the city's doing its business in public. This allows the people to understand what we're being told, and at the same time, they're being advised on what the procedures are we're required to follow. I can already, under the current ordinance, ask that a city attorney give me an opinion and put it in writing, but I have not been able to require that it be done in public and that I be allowed to share it in public. And this would allow that to happen. In addition, however, there is an exception in there that would allow the city attorney to deny a request to make it in public. He'd simply have to put that in writing and then justify it either legally or for policy reasons. So I think it's just a good open government concept that needs to be put in writing because there's been some problems with it. So I'm trying to correct those problems by putting a nice, transparent process in place.
All right, Councilor Sale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I stated last week, I won't support this. In my belief, it unduly restricts the ability of a city council member to have a candid discussion with the city attorney. And I absolutely need to have that discussion with him when it's not posted publicly so that he can keep me and other council members from getting into trouble with ordinances they might or might not bring. So I cannot support this.
All right, any other discussion on this? All right, let's take a vote, Tom.
Mayor?
Councilor Brecky.
I would like the opportunity to respond to the comment. There's nothing in this ordinance whatsoever that prevents a council member from having a conversation, a working conversation with the city attorney's office and receive advice on what that council member is doing or wants to do. This simply is when the council member wants to have a public opinion and have it in an official capacity so that it can be shared and made public, that they have the opportunity to request that that be allowed.
All right. I think we're ready to take a vote on this.
Council members Kylie,
No.
Nitzert,
No.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale,
No.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
No.
Jensen.
No.
All right, that fails 5-3. Next item, please.
Item 69, first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 2000 East 12th Street from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the RT2 Townhome Residential Traditional District, number 15943-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Private applicant Brent Tucker.
Jason, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Jason Bieber representing Planning and Development Services. This is an application by Brett Tucker representing Affordable Housing Solutions. It's located at 2000 East 12th Street. It's about 0.15 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant's looking to construct a new twin home on the lot.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on this? Council, got any questions?
Move approval.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Kai to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th. Discussion on that one? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale, Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item.
Item 70, first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 3031 North Wayland Avenue from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional and the RT2 Townhome Residential Traditional Districts, number 15944-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Private applicant Brent Tucker.
The applicant and owner is also Brent Tucker with Affordable Housing Solutions. It's located at the southwest corner of East 31st Street North and North Wayland Avenue. It's about 0.31 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant is looking at splitting this existing lot into two lots. On the north lot, he's looking at constructing a twin home, and then on the south lot, a single-family house. Both these structures do meet the minimum, or exceed, the minimum setback and parking requirements of the zoning ordinance for these proposed structures. A neighborhood meeting was held on Thursday, February 24th. Neighborhood concerns at that meeting included traffic, the increased density of this property. There was a single-family house on here that was in disrepair and has been removed. Development won't fit into the rural character of some of those existing lots to the east that are a little bit larger in size, and then parking requirements. We also had roughly 15 neighbors from the neighborhood attend the Planning Commission meeting and spoke about similar concerns as that were presented at the neighborhood meeting.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I live, Ken Frederick, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I live to the east of this area, property right next to it. Been to all the meetings, lived up in Norton Acres my whole life. All for development, really am. Norton Acres has improved tremendously. It's really come a long way. We're going to develop this property, and we have a lot that's 120 foot long by 111 foot. We would like to split it up, he is telling us, into a lot that is 45 foot by 111 and 75 foot by 111. Now, what nobody's talked about, and it just came to my attention, on 31st Street, there is an 8-foot right-of-way, which is not shown on this drawing, and they tell me until it has been replotted, it will not show. So if we're working with this north lot, the 75-foot lot. That 8-foot setback right away is going to move the property pins in 8 foot. So now his setback, he's got a 10-foot setback, but you need to add 8 foot to that, if I understand all this correctly. So now if you start running the numbers from the current numbers here, just to make it easy, 18 foot before he can have his twin home. The twin home is 55 foot, so now we are at 73 foot, and on the south side of the home, there's a 5 foot minimum, so we're at 78 foot. So we got a 75 foot lot, we're 3 foot short for meeting every standard, like as I said, I'm not against everything. My house, the way it sits here now, this twin home is going to sit 8 foot past my house in the front yard. And of course, it'll run past in the backyard. Each of these homes are gonna have decks on them. You look at that 24 foot, that deck is 10 by 10 on each of these twin homes. So now you have neighbors 10 foot away from your property line looking over your privacy fence. Not anybody's problem, my problem. However, you think about this lot that is 120 by 111, theoretically. As I go out my front door, I see 8 to 10 foot of duplex or twin home.
Kent, thanks for your input. We've got a 3-minute time limit on public input.
Where am I at?
You're 10 seconds past, buddy. So we'll have a second reading on this. You'll have 5 minutes if you come back.
So I do not approve.
Yep.
That's, this whole process is really unclear.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on this item tonight? Good evening, sir.
My name's Rick Kubaszewski. I live directly across from this duplex, twin home, whatever it's going to be on the corner. I own 200 feet there, frontage. So my problem is it looks to me like they're putting the thing too close to the road. I done a police log to see how many accidents were on the corner of Wayland and 31st Street North from 2004 to 2021, 14 accidents on the corner. Some of them literally cars upside down. Other than that, we have no twin homes in our area. We have no 45-foot lots in our area. I've been there 40 years. We have a lot that's probably close to that size, but there's not a home on it. So kind of where I'm at on this whole deal is I would rather see this lot split in half, put 2 single-family houses on it, make it look nice, give it a little yard, get some good people over there. Other than that, I don't see much green space is going to be happening here. What I see on what's proposed, I'll look out my driveway and I'll see 3 garages with 3 double wide driveways with 10 feet in between a couple of them. But like I say, the stress is the 45-foot lot. We have none in our area. We got big lots. They're 60 feet wide. They're 160 feet long. We like it that way. We don't, we're not saying we don't want something over there, but let's make it fit the neighborhood. Other than that, the drainage is going to bother me. This week we've had water in the ditches running over driveways. All we got there is culverts. We have no curb and gutter. All water runs down the front of the street, onto the street, into the ditches, and the culverts are obviously froze up or plugged up. Water's been running over people's driveways in that area. So these 2 houses are up the hill from me. All that water's coming to me. I can just see it happening. A week ago yesterday, I had 3 foot of water in my garage from that rain we got 3 years ago. So something I don't want again. And, but I also do know about the dedicated right-of-way on the front of that. I have 8 foot was taken away from mine when mine was done. And there's 8 foot that needs to be taken away from there when this is replotted. So therefore, that needs to be another 8 foot in. The setback I don't agree with. If If I was to do a home on my same corner directly across from there, I gotta be 24 feet from that same street, East 31st Street. I gotta be 20 feet from Wayland Avenue, which is the same as theirs, but when you look straight down the street and you see where mine is and you see where this is proposed, that one really hangs out there and it just don't seem right.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak on this?
Sarah Bruce, Sioux Falls. I asked the city council to defer this. We have a gentleman in the back. There was 15 people that came to the meeting over there. It was very unclear. His questions was not answered. He received the stuff in the mail at nighttime. He needs answers. He needs his questions answered. And I know from experience how the city does in neighborhoods. We need to try to defer this or outreach, Erica Beck, somebody outreach the neighborhood on this. Again, we can't just keep building. You remember Mr. Mickelson, the rich Mr. Mickelson, he wanted to build that in by Kingswood, right? And they stopped him on that. Because he wanted to shove everything. Developers want to shove it and don't care about neighborhoods. And we're just going to ramrod everything through, and we're not going to sit there, and we're not going to talk to citizens and explain the situation and the process, and we're not going to answer the questions, and that's how we're going to roll. This individual and other people that was at this meeting is not getting clear answers from the city. So I think that they deserve, if we want to be transparent, they deserve to be heard, their questions to be answered. I understand when development happens, people's not happy about that. Some people, you never can get 100% happiness in development in neighborhoods, and I get that. This guy here and some other people needs questions to be answered, and it needs to be clear to them on their questions that needs to be answered, and they're not getting that. So can you please defer, or if you don't defer, can please somebody from city council reach out to this individual in the back here?
Anyone else to speak on this? All right, Counselor, come on up. Good evening.
Good morning. Good evening, Mayor, Councilors. Brent Tucker with Affordable Housing Solutions. We are the nonprofit developer that has submitted this request for rezoning to you. Our organization, we build homes for families that need homes. We build on lots, 45 feet, core district is 44-foot lots all over the place. We build on those because there's homes that are needed. We've taken down rundown properties, abandoned properties, removed dilapidated homes, put a new home in there and increased the tax basis that generates revenue for the city of Sioux Falls. It also provides a home for this. Out there, we did remove 2 homes from that lot. There was a large mobile home as well as an abandoned rundown house. And we did hold a neighborhood meeting and 70-foot lot. We did give, as you notice on the map, the dark black dots are the original property line. We did give, according to engineering, the lot requirement, which decreased our setback. So we did everything that the engineering requested of us. We also did it on North Wayland Avenue. They increased the right-of-way for us, so we set back 5 foot further as well. Green space, there's a 25-foot lot in the backyard, 25 foot times 120 feet. That's how much green yard there is just in the backyard. Mainly like most other house in the core of Sioux Falls. I understand the land out there is, most people have half-acre lots, some people have acre lots. There's possibly people that have bigger. But what we're trying to do is provide housing for families that need it and that normally can't qualify to buy a house. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brent. Anyone else to speak on this? All right, Council, you have any questions on this item? Councilor Starr.
Yes, Mr. Bieber, I have a couple of questions. Rick pointed out a couple of things that were really kind of stuck with me. It's the neighborhood. It's the, the culverts and the drainage, and when some of the we don't have any way to go down the whole block for it to drain in a number of places in this part of Norton Acres. And what we keep getting told is that, if one person and their culvert blocks or wears out, then it stays in their yard or it stays in the downhill side of the drainage part of it. I guess through my babbling, have we looked at the entire development and said, this is where we really need to go? Because I think the residents of this area, their biggest fear is a lot of these acre and a half, 2 acre lots are going to be split up into townhomes and fourplexes and sixplexes. And I think Councilor Neitzer did a nice job earlier tonight talking about video lottery. We've started allowing multiple video lotteries in the same building and multiple coolers, and now we're surprised that there's 50 machines in an area. This takes us down that path in housing. From an area of town where there's people who are proud of their large part of, large amount of land that they have, the type of property that they have. And yes, there are multiple properties that probably need to be cleaned up and given back and restarted. But I guess, is there a process for the city to take a look at the entire neighborhood and do the planning when it's a mature neighborhood like this?
Yeah, there's definitely a process for us to maybe do a study of all of Norton. This specific one is kind of on the outskirts of Norton, closer to Cliff Avenue. There are some lots here that are a lot smaller than what he's creating to the south and west. And I understand the neighbors' concerns as you do go farther east in Norton. You're correct. There's a lot more of the acre lot type things that we probably wouldn't support maybe putting so much on here. When it does come down to density on this though, I mean, these are 1 unit for every 4,500 square feet, which in the core area, this isn't the core area, but we have lots of lots that are that size, 44 by 100. Essentially, he could probably fit, if you did it smaller, he could probably fit 2 duplexes on here in 4 units without even rezoning. Really, the only thing that he's trying to come before you guys to get the rezoning is one, that single family lot he's creating is going to be less than that 50 foot. So that's why he's got to rezone that. Otherwise, that meets all the setbacks of a normal suburban lot, the 25 front, 25 rear, and 5 on the side, which most people would have in Sioux Falls. And then the twin home lot on the north side, the biggest issue for him is that 10-foot setback on the north side. He needed to come to rezone it to be able to get that 10-foot setback, which is what they're proposing to do. And a lot of that is based on, as Brent indicated, engineering's requesting some additional right-of-way along 31st Street because that is a collector. So that's another 8 feet of right-of-way that gets taken away from their property. If you've been out there, driven out there, the street is pretty narrow with no plans to widen it. So it may be essentially more right-of-way, but it's going to stay green space. So the house is going to look set back quite a ways from the street. So I understand with some of those houses to the west, because they're facing north, it's going to look maybe a little different from them, but it would look pretty close to the street as you see in some of the other parts of the city.
Well, I guess, again, I go back to the same thing that, we're going to take a neighborhood that's, we're used to houses on a lot of land in comparison to other places in the city. And we're doing it without an overall plan for the neighborhood. And when do we get far enough into it that we say, oh, wait, we should have planned and taken a look and fixed the drainage? I don't usually get concerned about drainage concerns because obviously those get handled as part of the building permit process. But this is one where when you drive from Wayland, you drive to the next couple of blocks over, there is some issues without having curb and gutter. And I don't want to require, I'm not saying I want to require curb and gutter. I'm not going to get tagged with that tonight. But at some point they have to drain. They have to be able to do those things. The streets have to be big enough. If we're going to add the density to it, but you just said we're not planning on widening streets, and then we start creating safety concerns afterwards. I guess I'm looking for some kind of master plan for the entire area that over time that as a council will say, okay, yeah, this does make sense to convert this acre lot into a fourplex or a sixplex type of thing before we get too far into the entire neighborhood as it turns over.
And we can bring that up to the drainage engineering, as you know, as part of their budget every year, they do come back and retrofit, as they call it, some of these older neighborhoods that maybe were done, the drainage was done at a different time period where it wasn't, our standards weren't quite as strict. So I can definitely bring that up to them to see if this is an area where maybe we need to take a specific look at it. But a lot of those improvements, you know, if we need to dig out some culverts, that's pretty easy. But some of the other improvements, you know, you get into is the curb and gutter and that stuff, which most of this neighborhood doesn't want to do. That similar to Old Orchard. They like their rural character, and we're not proposing to put that in there. But those are something we can definitely look at for this entire neighborhood.
And the other thing that the neighborhood has that is unique, there is an amount of commercial or that contractor type size things. And we've seen some new properties right along Wayland or in the area that, yeah, just down the street, the old sawmill area and some other things that, you know, we've had plenty of zoning and, or complaints about trying to work with the neighbors so that you can live and people can work and do those things. And it's a really unique part of our city that we want to be able to at least preserve and make the best that we can. So I get their concern of what we're trying to do. So I understand the 8 foot and the extra right of way a little bit better now too. So
Any other questions tonight?
appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, all right. And no other question for Jason. Let's get a motion. That would be to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5.
So move, Jensen.
Second, Sale.
All right. Discussion, council, on this one. All right, hearing none, let's take a vote on it, please.
Council members Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 71, first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located south of East 57th Street and east of South Rateliff Avenue from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District and C3 Commercial Community District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District and C3 Commercial Community District, number 15957-2021, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Private applicant Ryan Tisdale.
The applicant here is Ryan Tisdale. The owner is Brady Hyde. It's located south of East 57th Street and then west of future Veterans Parkway and Highway 11. It's about 0.17 acres in size. It sounds kind of like a long description, but it's really, they're just swapping two little locations. So the south portion is going to be zoned from C2 to C3, and then that west portion will go from C3 to C2. So just kind of changing some boundary lines out there.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on this one? Council, any questions for Jason here?
Move approval.
Motion to set a date of reading for second reading, Tuesday, April 5. Motion by Selberg on that.
Second, Jensen.
Second by Jensen. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that one, please.
Council members Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr, Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item.
Item 72, first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located southeast of the intersection of West Graceland Court and West Graceland Place from the RA1 Apartment Residential Low Density District to the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District, number 15964-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Private applicant, Veldhouse Construction Incorporated.
The applicant and owner here is Veldhouse Construction. It's located south of West 12th Street and west of I-29. It's about 0.65 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant's looking to sell a little bit of that property to the property owner to the east, and then they're looking to construct some twin homes on those two lots.
All right, thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 72? Council got any questions here?
Move approval.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Council members Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr, Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item.
Item 73, first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 2900 East Rice Street from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District to the I-1 Light Industrial District, number 15977-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Private applicant, William R. Rush.
The applicant here is Chris Matthew. The owner is William Rush. It's located at 2900 East Rice Street, just east of the I-229 and Rice Street interchange. It's about 6.12 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is they're looking to match the correct zoning with the current use of the property, and then also the proposed use, another heavy truck sales and repair is looking to go on this specific lot.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item.
Item 74, first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located north of Arrowhead Parkway and west of 6 Mile Road from the CN Conservation, RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban, and the C4 Commercial Residential Regional Districts to the CN Conservation, RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban, RA1 Apartment Residential Low Density, and C4 Commercial Regional Districts, number 15987-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Private applicant, Willow's Edge Estates, LLC.
The applicant and owner here is Clint Ackerman. It's located north of East Arrowhead Parkway and then west of South 6 Mile Road. It's about 85 total acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is they're looking to do some minor zoning boundary adjustments really with the C4 and then the conservation area in the middle. The big change is they're looking to construct an apartment building on kind of that east side of this property. As you can see, the property to the north, that's kind of whited out. That's actually a landscape business that's still located in the county.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on item 74 tonight? Council, any questions on this one?
Move approval.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Council members Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star? Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 75.
Item 75, first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located north of East 57th Street and west of 6 Mile Road from the AG Agriculture District to the CN Conservation RS Single Family Residential Suburban, RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban, RA1 Apartment Residential Low Density, RA3 Apartment Residential High Density, LW Live Work, and C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar Districts, number 15982-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Private applicant, Signature Companies, LLC.
The applicant here is Todd Price with Bros Engineering. The owner is Clint Ackerman. It's located at the northwest corner of East 57th Street and South 6 Mile Road. It's about 126 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant's looking to construct a commercial office and residential development.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on item 75? Counselor, got any questions on this one? All right, look for a motion. Set a date of second reading for the April 5.
So moved, Erickson.
Second, Brecky.
All right, motion by Erickson, seconded by Brecky. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that one, please.
Council members Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star? Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item.
Item 76, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to convey real estate. Sponsors the mayor.
Mike, good evening.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilors. Mike Patton, Parks and Recreation. This is an agreement that will effectively transfer a 5-acre parcel of land where Hayward Park currently sits, just south of Hayward Elementary School, from the Sioux Falls School District to the City of Sioux Falls. The park was originally constructed under the joint usage agreement, and the property was never platted off as a piece of city-owned property. So we're really just cleaning up the property lines prior to going in and constructing the improvements this summer at Hayward Park. Property comes as is, but as I mentioned, everything on this property is a city asset, as it's been a park all these years. No money will be exchanged. And we did complete an environmental assessment and found no issues. There is one reversionary clause. If the property ever ceases to be used as a park, they would revert back to the school district. As far as timeline is concerned, we took it to the school board in February, which they approved. We took it to the Parks and Recreation Board, where they made a recommendation for approval in February as well. Upon execution of the agreement, we will plat off the land and start construction. I can answer any questions that you have.
All right, thanks, Mike. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Council, you got any questions for Mike on this item? All right, look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second, Neitzer.
All right, motion by Kylie, seconded by Neitzer to approve this item. Discussion. All right, let's take a vote, please, Tom.
Council members Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that one passes 8-0. All right, Council, got any new business tonight? Counselor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to take a point of personal privilege. Today I had the experience to go to a beautiful service for a true star of our community, Gary Gasper, today. And I wanted to take a moment to send out some prayers and thoughts to his family. I know that his parents, Ken and Levon, are regular watchers of council meetings. He was a good man and just a wonderful human being and a community servant who is going to be greatly missed. And this is just another one of those situations where we got to remember not to take a loved one for granted or even a day. So again, thoughts and prayers to Gary's family and friends as they get through this unbelievably hard time. Thank you.
Amen. Counselor Kylie.
Thank you very much. I too request a point of personal privilege because somebody who's very special to me is celebrating a birthday today. That would be my wife, Donna. Happy birthday, Donna. I hope you've had a great day, and I hope you have many, many more in the coming year. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Donna. All right, we're going to move to public input, 3 minutes per person on items that we didn't talk about earlier. Anyone for public input tonight coming up?
Greetings, I'm David Zokaitis, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about a rather amazing series of incidents. All right, I've been detained by local police 8 times now over about 7 years. A lot of civil rights violations, no meaningful charges. Pretty bad record on the part of the city police to detain somebody so many times without having any real charges. Here's the list of my so suspicious activities that have gotten me into so much grief. Like even walking. I can't hardly believe you can get hassled for walking around, but there it is. So like yesterday, 3 a.m., I tried to take somebody to this famous link, and for some odd reason, they must have thought that I belonged there instead of my passenger, because I was detained by 6 cops later who thought I was a drunk driver. What the heck? And the police there weren't really very nice. A lot of lack of respect. If you read our Constitution, it says, hey, don't bother people unless you have real suspicion. They might have had suspicion with a false report of me being drunk, but when that suspicion vanished, I should have been left alone. Okay. Another civil rights problem we had there was a police officer told me to stop recording. Sorry, guys, that's illegal on his part. I really don't like it when a police officer goes like this in front of my face. That's really not very nice. Oh, and the roadside sobriety test, that's a real treat. 3 gymnastics kind of thing, followed by a breathalyzer. Well, if the breathalyzer gives you a chemical test that's accurate, why bother making people dance? All right, now when you have problems like this, the usual reaction is the government says, hey, nothing ever happens, there's nothing bad. But if you get a really massive protest, you get an investigation, and then a promise for reform that never happens. I think what we're trying to do with this kind of process is to support the police and the people who support the police, bankers, politicians, and democracy, not so much. Way too similar to some of these ancient problems in pre-Nazi Germany. We should honor our Constitution and do better about civil rights. And of course, you know, you got to enjoy the world a little bit. This is along the Big Sioux River. Good evening, everybody.
Anyone else for public input tonight coming up?
Good evening. Nice to see you all again. Emmett Rice-Stroffer from Sioux Falls. In the last 10 days or so, there's two places I visited in the community, so I just wanted to share it with you, and hopefully there's some takeaways. One was the Juvenile Detention Center. The last time I was there, I was 16 years old because I got in trouble, so I decided to head back. I saw a news article that broke my heart when the director went to the county commission and said, they're having a mental health crisis. So I started rallying up other people I know that were there as kids and now maybe business owners or artists or what have you, a mayor of a small town 30 miles from here. And I'm trying to bring these folks back to talk to the kids and give them inspiration and relate to them a little bit. So if anyone can help with that, feel free to reach out to me or the Juvenile Detention Center. Then another place I went was the Union Gospel Mission, and to say life-changing, I mean, a little ashamed I haven't been in there already, just knowing that that's kind of ground zero for all the tough things we're facing as a community, but humanity. I mean, other cities are dealing with these issues in different ways and at bigger levels, and Sioux Falls, I think, still has a shot at really being a leader at addressing issues with homelessness. I learned a lot. I'm sure many of you have been there. If you haven't, please take the time. The leadership there is working so hard. It inspired me. First thing I did, went to my mom, who has way too many things in her loft. I said, we got to donate some of this stuff. A lot of women's clothing that's been barely used. We all have got something probably in the loft or the attic. So I just really want to support them. So I'm not, really asking you all specifically as city government, just sharing that experience. I guess maybe the one thing for the planning department, if someone wants to note it, the Gospel Mission has two buildings across the street from each other. I think of kind of the Sanford campus spread out across a street. They have the flashing crosswalk for safety. I think they really need that there on 8th Street by the Mission. They're delivering hot meals from one building to the other daily. And just myself crossing the road for the tour felt like crosswalk was really needed there. So that's just one simple thing. I only got 3 minutes, so I'll just leave you with that. We're not going to solve homelessness in 3 minutes here, but I hope to keep working on that and working with you all and these organizations that are doing a great job. That was it. Thanks for your time and hope you all have a great evening.
Come on up, sir.
Chester DeYoung, Sioux Falls. Oops, I'm back. There's a lot of different ways to look at an oops. Everybody looks at it a little bit different. Let's talk about the oops I've seen, in my opinion, within 2 blocks, 600 feet of my house. 1994, the residents at 4900 East 10th Street East Grant Street was going to be sold. The city required them to install a sewer main and water in order to sell the property. Problem is, they stopped the sewer main at Grant and LaSalle. 2004, the city started vacating Marquette Avenue by installing Marquette Avenue. 2005, the city finished vacating Marquette Avenue. April 16th, 2014, that's when the city implemented Shapes and Places, the fun of our real problem here. January of 2017, the city commission turned down a proposal that the city engineers were in support of for changing the zoning on East 10th Street. 2019-20, the city allowed and issued a permit for 5 outdoor sand volleyball courts with only 3 parking spots. The one that really thrills me the most is the one back in 2005. When the city vacated Marquette Avenue, they also vacated Taylor Street. I want to thank the city commission for that. because in the process, they vacated 390 feet of sewer main easement, and they vacated their gas easement. And guess what? It's under my property, and anytime you want to go service that sewer main, you have to cross my property, trespass. Okay, that one manhole, there's 3 of them there, but there's one that services 8 streets and 125 residents. Ooh, ouch. None of these facts are very instrumental, one at a time. They're all small. But when you look at them all combined, whoa, we got a little issue here. Everybody makes mistakes. What can they do? Let's just take a look at what the city's wanting to do now. They're wanting to open Grant Street, which is only going to contribute to their problems. They've got all these other issues. They want to open Grant Street, and they're going to put a gravel road in. Wait a second. The city does not allow a gravel road to be constructed by anybody. They're going to turn around when they open this road, throw it on Taylor Street. Taylor Street, according to their own standard, number 8, cannot hold that much traffic. And in fact, the city just approved that standard back in February of 2019. They don't care. And the other one they're going to violate is the fire code. D 107.36 says a gravel road is not an acceptable permanent hard surface access. It's only temporary and it has to be marked. Does the city know their own standards? Does the city feel they're above their own standards? And who can control the city if the city can't control themselves? You guys have a great day.
Come on up.
Sarah Bruce, Sioux Falls. So you remember when I spoke about the police department? So I emailed Chief Chum, and we're going to get down to Chief Chum tonight. When that stuff happened with those police officers, citizens were very leery. Then we have ringing up my phone about diversity in that police department, and we should have had a chief of police from another state. And I'm going to only tell you a little bit to the public of his business because he doesn't mind. People need to understand that Chief Toom is a white guy in that police department force for a lot of years and does believe in diversity. And I'm going to tell you why he believes in diversity. Chief Toom has 3 biracial children. Chief Chum's wife has multiple races in her blood, okay? So when people call me up and say, Chief Toom, we need diversity in our police department, Chief Toom this, Chief Toom that, people need to realize his background, where he came from, who he's married to, and how, and his children. I tell citizens all the time that we got a good chief of police here. It's not our chief of police, it's the mayor's, but the mayor did do a good job in getting the right chief of police here. We got to give him some time to work internally and externally. We never had a chief of police that did this. Chief Burns was only internal. This one's internal and external. Just because he's a white guy doesn't mean nothing. He absolutely understands problems on diversity in the city, the challenges that people face in the city, because he has a wife. I'm sure when he goes to public places that he sees what goes on with diversity and couples that are interracial. I'm sure he knows and can relate to a certain degree. We need to give Chief Chum a chance to explain to the citizens that this police department is going to be ran very well. We're going to have diversity in that police department. He can relate to diversity in the community, and to give Chief Chum a chance here. Another thing is Chief Chum is not too far from high crime area. So Chief Chum knows about high crime areas. He is well aware of the high crime areas, and where he lives at, he is not too far from high crime area. So Chief Chum does not live way across God's country that is not prone to high crime. He's very well aware of what goes on in Pettigrew and Whittier and all of these other places.
All right, anyone else tonight?
Mike Zero to Sioux Falls again. I just want to talk a little bit about West Sioux neighborhood again. I think that's a topic of interest with the county coming forward. I just like to keep urging the council to adopt a resolution to create a new vision for the neighborhood. I think there's a lot to offer there. I think as far as history goes, I think we got the mayor's advisory board on the event center complex. We got the the county's task force about to start for the fair board. I think if you guys can help me create some dialogue within the community itself on the new vision for that street. I think Madison Street West Madison Street could be very easily developed into a commercial district from I-29 to downtown, making a new corridor there. I think a lot of people don't realize West Madison, Burnside, 6th, and East Madison all kind of creates a corridor from east to west. So that creates, if we can develop those streets a little bit more and promote it, I think that can be a very good corridor. And then a new plan, keep harping on a new plan for the arena, the event center, include those. I think if we creating a new vision for that whole area, one's a proud area. If you look at the military background behind it, I think we can do exactly what we're doing downtown. We can create a whole new urban climate in the old West Sioux district. I don't think it'd be hard to start a resolution. I mean, you can just do something. I think public parking. I think if we redevelop Madison Street, that would create more parking needs for the event center complex. I think if we can, I look at Madison Street as kind of like Phillips Avenue downtown. We can make Madison Street that type of street down in that area. And then just for old sake's sake, I found an old picture of what West Sioux used to look like. I mean, if we can create some type of historical entertainment / community district there, I think that'd be a good way to go about it, especially with the veteran, the new vet community going up on Western. And I think the old industrial park, that can be a interesting development there. I think if we were going to create a new TIF district, I think West Sioux would be an interesting spot for a TIF district. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mike. Anyone else tonight? All right, I'd look for a motion to adjourn us, please.
Move to adjourn.